Lucas hit play, just like he did every night after work, sitting on the couch with a bowl of half-stale popcorn. He dove into the same show as always. One episode per day, almost like a ritual. The American sitcom was his safe haven. Laugh. Tracks. Quick dialogues. Charming characters. On screen, the friends were meeting up at the cafe. One of them cracked a joke. Everyone laughed, even the studio audience. Lucas let out an automatic chuckle, but stopped midway. He frowned. The laugh didn't come because he got it. It came because everyone else laughed. He hit pause. Silence. At the bottom of the screen, the subtitles were still in Portuguese. Same setting as always. The comfort of translation. But now, that comfort felt uncomfortable. Not again. He muttered. It was like something had broken inside him. Months of watching, and he still relied on the subtitles. The line had flown by too fast. He caught a word or two. Guy. Weird. Date. But the meaning? Nothing. He sat up straighter, as if better posture would help him understand. Rewound a few seconds, this time trying to focus only on the audio. Eyes off the text. Nothing. Like listening to a song on the wrong frequency. He slumped back, frustrated. This wasn't the first time it had happened. But tonight, something inside him refused to let it slide. Because for the first time, he felt angry. Not at the show, at himself. A year earlier, things had been even worse. Lucas had always had a rocky relationship with English. Since school days, the subject felt like a foreign language, literally. While other kids picked up irregular verbs easily, he got stuck on the first line of the worksheet. He'd mix up do and does, and thought past perfect sounded like some sort of American dessert. He laughed at it now, but back then, it wasn't funny at all. The insecurity only grew when he started working as a customer support assistant at a tech startup. Part of the team was based in the US, and occasionally there were online meetings. The first time he joined one, he was sweating like it was an exam. On the screen appeared an American manager, friendly, fast-talking, with that movie accent. Lucas waved, nervous. "Hello, Lucas. Nice to meet you." He smiled, swallowed hard, and replied with the classic, "Hello." And that was it. The rest of the conversation sounded like a jet engine flying past his ears. Too fast. Too far away. He stayed silent the whole time, pretending his internet connection was lagging. At the end, he messaged a coworker. "Can you translate? I didn't get any of it." She laughed. So did he. But inside, it felt like getting punched. How does everyone get it but me? He wondered. Deep down, Lucas had always wanted to understand movies without subtitles, to join the conversation, to feel comfortable hearing English. But something always held him back. Lack of practice, fear, or maybe that inner voice whispering, "You're just not cut out for this." Then one day, everything started to shift. Ironically, it was thanks to TV. It was a rainy Saturday. Lucas was at Pedro's place, a college friend who shared his love for pop culture. The TV was on, and an episode of Friends was playing in the background. But something caught Lucas's attention. There were no subtitles. None. Just the audio. And Pedro was laughing like he understood every word. "You're watching without subtitles?" Lucas asked, surprised. Pedro looked at him like it was nothing unusual. "Of course. I'm training my ears. It's hard at first, but it gets easier." Lucas fell silent. He'd never seen that up close. Someone actually understanding English, straight from the source. No translation, like they belonged to that world. On the way home, the idea stuck with him. That night, lying in bed, Lucas opened up his streaming. App. He hesitated before changing the setting. English subtitles. His heart raced like he was about to take a test, but he clicked. If he can do it, why can't I? From that moment, he started his own secret project, a kind of personal challenge. 1 episode per day. First, with English subtitles. Then, the same episode, with no subtitles at all. It was a simple plan. No expensive courses, no magic tricks, just him, the couch, and a remote control. During the first few days, he watched with a notebook in his lap, paused after each sentence, wrote down new words, tried to repeat them out loud. How you doin' became a mantra. He imagined himself using it in real conversations. Even if it felt impossible, deep down it wasn't just about learning English. It was about proving to himself that he could learn anything. All it took was time and persistence. And if one day he could laugh at the joke before the subtitles, maybe all this effort would be worth it. On the 4th night of his challenge, Lucas decided to skip the English subtitles and go straight for it. The episode with no subs. It was Friends Season 2. He sat down with a bowl of cereal, feeling excited, hit play, and silence. Or rather, voices, fast, overlapping, packed with inside jokes and slang that made 0 sense. 5 seconds in, pause. He rewound the scene, pressed play again. Still, nothing, just a sound that felt like music in a foreign language. He laughed, not at the show, but at himself. "Dude, what was that?" he muttered, frustrated. He pulled out his phone and tried to type what he thought he heard. Chendler being Chandler? Nothing. Not even Google knew. It's like I'm watching a silent movie, with subtitles in another language, he thought, and that's exactly how it felt. The expressions just slid past his ears. Without sticking, everything slipped away. Each sentence felt like a secret code. The frustration hit hard. For the first time, he thought about quitting, but something stopped him. Maybe pride. Maybe just the fact that he'd already told his sister he was training his English with shows. He didn't want to be that guy who started excited and gave up at the first bump in the road. That night, he finished the episode with English subtitles. Read, reread, listened again. Repeated words out loud. Alone in his room, he said for the 10th time, "Could I be wearing any more clothes?" It wasn't pretty or smooth, but it was a step. Learning English, he realized, was like trying to understand a new song. At first it's just noise, but with time, every word starts finding its place, and he was willing to wait. By the 3rd week, Lucas didn't have to pause as often. He still felt unsure, of course. Some jokes still went right over his head, like a bus that doesn't stop at your stop. But every now and then, he understood something, and that changed everything. He was watching an episode of Brooklyn Nine-Nine when Jake Peralta looked straight at the camera and said, "You gotta be kidding me." Lucas froze. He got it. No subtitles. No mental translation. He felt the meaning of the phrase. "You're joking with me," he repeated, laughing. I understood. It was his first win. That night, he opened his phone's notes app and started writing down new expressions. Not like a student, more like someone collecting treasures. "I'm in." "No way." "That's nuts." Each one tied to a scene, a tone, a memory. He started repeating the lines out loud, trying to mimic the accent, swapped his Portuguese playlists for TV soundtracks, downloaded a pronunciation app, and began repeating phrases while brushing his teeth, on the bus, even while doing the dishes. "Could I be wearing any more clothes?" he'd say, now with a nearly automatic Chandler impression. He laughed to himself. And the funny part, His friends started to notice. At a Sunday lunch, his sister asked, "Who are you speaking English with in your room? I heard you practicing." "With myself," he said, laughing. Little by little, Lucas started teaching his friends new expressions too, using funny examples from the shows. It was wild how someone who barely understood "What's your name?" a while ago was now the group's go-to for English. It wasn't a magical transformation. It was like learning to ride a bike. Lots of falls at the start, but once you find balance, you never really forget. And he was still pedaling. It was a cloudy Friday, the kind of day where everything moves a bit slower. Lucas was arranging the display window at the electronics store, where he worked when the door opened with a sharp chime. He didn't even look up. It was automatic by now. "Good morning. How can I help you?" But then he heard a different voice, light English, with a soft, almost musical accent. "Hi, do you speak English?" He froze. His co-worker Vanessa glanced at him, eyes wide. She didn't speak English. And for a split second, Lucas felt that old familiar chill in his stomach. But this time, something was different. He took a deep breath. He remembered a scene from Stranger Things. 11 facing something terrifying, but not backing down. "Yes, a little," he said, with a nervous smile. The Canadian tourist smiled back, relieved. She needed a phone adapter. Lucas understood. Kind of. He asked her to repeat it slowly. She was kind. He pointed, gestured, said, "Wait a second," twice. He messed up a "I don't know" with "I know," and they both laughed. But the conversation happened. For real. He understood. She understood. And it was like flipping on a light he didn't know existed inside him. When she left the store, saying, "Thank you so much. You really helped me," Lucas could barely believe it. It felt like he'd just leveled up in a game that once seemed impossible. Vanessa was still stunned. "You really understood everything?" "Not everything, but enough." That night, Lucas didn't watch any shows. He sat on the couch, still in his work uniform, just staring at the ceiling with a smile. It wasn't perfect. He stammered, messed up verb tenses, used to do in a weird way, but it worked. That 3-minute conversation meant more than months of formal classes. It was no longer about understanding characters. It was about becoming one, and for the first time, he saw himself in the story. No subtitles needed. After that day, Lucas watched shows differently. They weren't just entertainment. They were almost like hidden lessons. Undercover teachers using humor, drama, and everyday dialogue. He began organizing his series time like a study plan, but without the boredom. Friends was the first love. "How you doing?" He laughed every time Joey said it, but now he got why it was funny. Friends became what he called a real-world translator. It taught him expressions like, "No way," "I'm broke," and "It's up to you." Then came Stranger Things. At first, he found the dialogue way too fast. But it was where he picked up phrases like, "I swear," "I'm serious," and "deal with it," and the youth slang, a whole new world. Finally, he dove into Brooklyn Nine-Nine. That one was my speed training ground. The rhythm was insane, but it helped him tune his ear to fast speech and pick up more urban slang, like "no biggie," "for real," and "you nailed it." He even created a notebook, yes, a real one, where he wrote down useful phrases, repeated them out loud. Sometimes he even set them as his phone wallpaper, and the more he learned, the more addicted he got. Not to English, to the feeling of progress. Each show was a secret teacher, and I didn't even have to pay tuition. Lucas even started recommending specific episodes to friends who also wanted to learn. Learning English stopped being a task. It became part of his routine, part of who he was becoming. Same room, same show. But now, something had changed. Lucas sat on the couch, remote in hand, eyes fixed on the screen. The American sitcom flew by, fast-paced, full of wordplay and cultural references, but he didn't pause, didn't frown, didn't look at subtitles, because they weren't there anymore. And when the punchline came, he laughed, out loud, alone, like someone who finally gets the joke between old friends. He turned off the TV for a moment and stared at the reflection on the dark screen. Crazy to think. A year ago, I barely understood a, "Hi, how are you?" he muttered, almost in disbelief. He remembered every pause, every word he looked up, every time he nearly gave up. He remembered the frustration of not understanding, the first joke he got, that conversation with the Canadian tourist, and how that wasn't the end. It was the beginning. No subtitles, but with purpose. That phrase echoed in his mind. In the end, learning English wasn't about understanding everything. It was about keeping going. Even when you understood almost nothing, Lucas didn't become fluent overnight. He didn't study abroad. He didn't have a private tutor. But he overcame something much bigger than grammar. The fear of starting, and now every time someone says, "English just isn't for me," he smiles and says, "Watch one episode a day, just one, with time. You'll laugh at the jokes too." Because for him, English didn't come from a classroom. It came from a couch, a remote, and one simple choice. The choice not to quit.